For those of you joining us this morning, welcome to Social Work Week 2024 and to this event, Shared Life, helping people with support needs make the transition from children to adult care. We are really pleased that you are able to join us. This is our second session on Monday, 18th of March, and we are really excited to see the high interest in terms of attendance. I am Iona Roberts. I am one of the regional engagement leads at Social Work England. And before I will hand over to our presenters, I will very quickly go through some of the housekeeping slides. If you attended our first session this morning, you probably have seen this message. It's a legal disclaimer, which is currently on your screen. And any views, information, or opinions expressed by third parties during Social Work Week are the speaker's own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Social Work England or its employees. Social Work England has not endorsed third-party content and accepts no liability for the content of third-party or sector-led sessions throughout the Social Work Week 2024. Your privacy is really important to us, and we are aware that you probably have already read our privacy notice on our Social Work England website. So by providing personal information such as your name, email address, you agree for us to contact you for the purposes of event management and evaluation. We're going to share towards the end of this session, which is a bite-sized session. It is just 30 minutes. It is something new. We have been introducing this 4 year of Social Work Week. We are going to share a survey and some feedback form, and feel free to contribute and share with us your views on how we can improve or what we should do next in terms of Social Work Week. Your personal data will be retained for up to 3 years, and this is in accordance with our data retention schedule. And I'm now going to hand over to Lesley Dixon, who is the Chief Executive at PSS UK. Lesley, do you want to come in?
I will. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I'd also like to introduce my co-presenters. So Bob Bell. Bob is a registered manager, and he is our service manager for our shared lives service in Merseyside. He's an expert in shared lives, but the absolute experts are the people living it, and that's Adele and Barney. So Adele is a shared lives carer, and Barney is somebody that she supports. So you'll hear more from the three of those people in a minute. But let me start off by just telling you a little bit about shared lives. So if I could have the next slide, please. So a little bit about PSS as a starting point. So PSS was set up back in 1919, been around a while. We were set up at the end of World War I, so a time of crushing poverty in many parts of the UK and in Liverpool particularly. So we're an organisation that's born and bred in Liverpool. And actually, when we started, we had 2 women at the helm. So you can see a rather formidable looking Victorian woman there, Eleanor Rathbone. Eleanor Rathbone was one of our founders. She was our chair, and we also had a woman as the general secretary, so the equivalent of chief executive today. So 2 women heading up an organisation back in 1919, pretty radical just in and of itself. And we were set up to see a need and find a way to help. So really quite a broad kind of remit. You can see there some of the organisations that were founded with support from PSS. So Age UK, Citizens Advice, Relate, Riverside, one of the largest housing associations in the UK. We also set up Shared Lives, a little bit more about that later. Something else that we did, and Eleanor Rathbone pioneered, was some of the first social work placements in the country, along with the University of Liverpool. So if you happen to have been a social worker who did your placement at PSS, then a special hello to you. Okay, if I could see the next slide, please. So that's what we did. What we do now, we've got much greater focus, and we work in 3 main areas. So we're a social enterprise that supports people to live happy, healthy and hopeful lives. And that's in 3 main areas. So particularly, and the largest part is around adult social care, people, and particularly women in and around the criminal justice system, and families who've been through unsteady times. And then you can see there, we're Liverpool born and bred. Big part of our footprint is in Merseyside, but you can see there the different parts of the country where we work. And in fact, in all of those areas, we have shared lives services. So if you happen to be a social worker from a service that we work with, then again, a special hello to you. So if I could just take the next slide. So as I said earlier, PSS founded Shared Lives, and it came from a very simple question from one of our former colleagues. Why can't people who need support in the community go and live with another family? And that was the starting point. And from that Shared Lives was born. So it was originally adult placement. So you may have come across it under the terminology adult placement. And it's akin to fostering, very similar. Obviously, the key difference being that adults have both kind of rights and responsibilities. But in that, the carer is paid. They're self-employed. They're paid, and they support somebody in their own home. It's one of the most cost-effective, safest, and most personalised services. So, I know that there's so much stress around finance in local authorities at the moment. So to have a service that is really cost-effective, is the safer, one of the safest, and is one of the most personalised, you can't help but think what's not to like. And in terms of its size in the UK, there's some stats there. So 10,000 carers across the UK, over 150 providers. So PSS is just one of those providers. We are the largest provider of shared lives in the UK. But what we're going to talk to you about today is the PSS way of doing things. So it may differ slightly in your area, but this is the PSS way of doing things. So on that note, let me hand over to Bob, and Bob can tell you about how we do shared lives in PSS and the local authorities that we work with.
Thanks, Lesley, and good morning, everyone. As you can see there, there's a number of different types of shared lives. I'd just like to sort of just briefly go through what kind of support shared lives can offer. Shared lives have no upper age limit, and just to bust a few myths, shared lives isn't specifically for people with learning disabilities. It offers support for people with varying support needs, and as I said before, all different age groups. It's a very, very flexible model of support. And as on the previous slide there, it said that during the pandemic, that shared lives was the safest form of supported accommodation across the UK. So if we just focus on the different types of shared lives arrangements that we can provide, as you can see there, there's living arrangements. These are typically the normal kind of shared lives arrangements that we provide, and this is where a person with support needs, assessed support needs, would go and live in a shared lives home. There's no time limit on this. They would be matched with shared lives carers as part of the PSS matching process. Intermediate arrangements, very similar to living arrangements, but these might be for set specific periods of time or flexible periods of times. This could be that the person needs to learn independent living skills, or it might be that a family member who normally provides the support has gone into hospital or for whatever reason can't provide that support. So the person would move into an intermediate arrangement for a set period of time. Family short breaks. This model of service, this is for people who live with their own families, and either they or the family members would need a break. So once again, they'd be matched with a shared lives carer, and they would spend, a period of time with that shared lives carer to have a break. That could be for one night, a couple of nights a week, a couple of weeks. This would usually be assessed by a local authority social worker. Home from hospital, one of our new types of service. This started a few years ago, and this is basically for shared lives to support bed blocking or delayed discharge in hospitals. And this is where a person who would normally be discharged to the home, if a family member was there, to be monitored either with medication or they might have mobility difficulties after surgery, or they might be waiting for a care package to be put in place. So the person would go and live with a shared lives carer for a short period of time. Basically and initially, it's a re-enablement service, and once that person has, recovered enough to go home. So basically, it's a very short-term service. Domestic abuse. PSS was part of a pilot project a few years ago, in where that, as part of a local government initiative, funding was put in place to support people who were survivors of domestic abuse who might not normally fit into the more normal hostel type arrangements. This was a very, very successful service, certainly for PSS, but the funding ran out. So it identified that Shared Lives can offer support for people fleeing domestic abuse, and certainly recognise that it's required. Just to mention, for this service, people don't need additional support needs to access that service. Emergency arrangements. PSS can provide emergency arrangements, but we have to take into account that the person's support needs and the fact that Shared Lives is just an ordinary family environment. So as you can see there, the session today is Move On Together arrangements, and briefly to just go through that. Move On Together is where a young person would live with their foster carer, and they've both identified that they would like that service to continue into adulthood post 18. Move On arrangements, very similar, and this is where a young person living in within children's services coming up to 18, and they could go and live with a Shared Lives carer. They might not want to stay with their foster carers, so we would be looking for a Shared Lives arrangement for them. So to go into a bit more detail in what Move On Together arrangements are and Move On arrangements are. So moving on together, as I say, a young person can remain in the familiar home environment, can continue to be supported by their foster carer. And then move on, as I've said before, to move into a stable, consistent family environment. So, and this would be also part of the matching process. Next slide, please. So the benefits of Shared Lives for transition, it's obviously a continuity of support. So the young person would continue to be supported by the person who supported them over the years. A lot of the people who move into Shared Lives, Move On Together arrangements have been with those carers since they were very, very young, 2, 3, 4 years of age. One of the issues with developing on in Shared Lives is the person moving on within their own time. Lots of the difficulties that we come across in Shared Lives is the person transitioning over to adult services, and this can be a quite traumatic time for people. So in order, Moving On Together arrangements can provide that sort of period of time for them to adjust for that. Okay. Short breaks available. People using Shared Lives can also access short breaks with other Shared Lives carers, so they can have a break to do that. It's a highly personalised professional support. It's by trained Shared Lives carers, and as Lesley said before, it's a very cost-effective form of care. And as Isabel Trowler said after a recent visit to PSS, why isn't everyone doing this? So who are our carers? All Shared Lives carers have to go through quite a robust assessment process, and this can take up to 3 months. This would be for foster carers as well. So just because someone's a foster carer doesn't mean to say that they wouldn't have to go through the approval process. So it's a professional form of support. So people would need DBS checks, they need references, They would get formal training. They would have to meet all the requirements of the care certificate. They wouldn't have to complete the care certificate, but they have to meet the evidence requirements of that. We also use experts by experience. Our experts are people who use the service, so they would go out with our care recruiters and they would ask relevant questions of how people would support people in their own homes. We also carry out health and safety checks to make sure that the accommodation is safe for people to live in. Our carers don't have to have a background in health and social care. Obviously, it helps, but they don't have to be. We've got taxi drivers, lorry drivers, all kinds of people who are able to provide that level of support. And as I say, the robust recruitment process enables them to do that. And obviously, their skills and experience will be matched to the person. Foster carers who go through that process, they have to go through a full carer assessment and the preparation and support to change to provide support. I'd just like to say that one of the things we've identified is the fact that it's a big change for people, both for young people moving into adult services from children's services and for carers providing support from children's services to adult services. Those major changes obviously involving legislation and obviously people or young people being able to make more decisions for themselves. I like to call that, because of the number of changes that involve, I like to call that from the pond to the sea. It sort of gives that sort of idea of the vast change that is required. So how does the referral process work? I mean, in PSS, there's a number of ways you can make a referral. Usually it comes through local authority, and we would request any support and information in that would be a Care Act assessment. We would then obviously arrange visits to meet people and complete a support plan, and then we would make introductions, and it says there identify a carer, but obviously within moving on together arrangements that wouldn't be required because the carer would already be in place. Then obviously agreements and funding would be discussed and finalised. And just to say that the recruitment process for shared lives carers can take approximately 3 months. So one of the difficulties we do have is that sometimes we will get requests for move on together arrangements, and 6, 7, 8 weeks before that person turns 18, and obviously that causes issues because it does take. It can take up to. It usually takes around 3 months, but it can take up to 6 months. So it's as it says there, it's never too early to start the process. So if you're thinking of using the Move On Together service, contact us as soon as you can. Okay.
Okay. So Bob, thank you for that. And of course, I hope what you get from that is Bob is an expert in shared lives, but of course the real experts are people who live and breathe whatever the service may be, and in this case it's shared lives. So the real experts are Adele and Barney. So Barney and Adele, delighted to have you with us. So Adele and her husband, they've been foster parents since 2010. They foster brothers Barney and Tate. So Barney is with us today. Barney is deaf and neurodivergent. And Barney and Tate had lived with Adele for 9 years. And as Barney was approaching his 18th birthday, the fear of the uncertainty, the weight of the transition, it was taking its toll on the whole family, including Barney, who was worried about having to move out and live alone. So Adele, let me start off by talking to you. So Adele, can you tell us about your situation before you came across shared lives as an option?
Okay, thanks, Lesley. So I've written down our story and I'm going to read that because it will be the best way for me to do it. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've known Barney and Tate since they were very young, when they used to come with their mum to a swimming group for deaf children that I used to run. All 3 of the boys are deaf and use cochlear implants and hearing aids between the 3 of them. We all used to have great fun at the swimming sessions, and it was a great way for deaf children to learn a new skill and make friends. The parents could share their experiences and support each other, and their children gained a life skill, swimming. All 3 boys are now excellent swimmers, and we look back at the time with very, very fond memories, don't we?
Yeah.
In fact, it was Barney in 2015, when his social worker was looking for a long-term foster placement, that he told her, phone Adele Jackson, she's a foster carer.
Yeah.
We had enough hands-on experience and day-to-day knowledge of deafness that thankfully the local authority agreed to place the boys with us. We have become a well-blended family over the years, and it was not until Barney was approaching his 18th birthday that we started to think, what's next, and started to panic. We didn't really know what the options would be. I did a bit of Googling and saw that there seemed to be 2 options, semi-supported living for Barney or staying put. So unfortunately for us, staying put would have not been an option, as the financial package offered is very different to fostering. After all, this is my job, and our finances and economic budgets are based around this income. We felt very uncomfortable at the time talking about money and what we would be paid. I would ask everybody to be understanding around these conversations you might have, as it is very hard for carers who genuinely care immensely for the young people they have looked after. We knew there was no way Barney was ready for semi-independent living, and he still needed a lot of support and wanted to remain part of our family unit, after all, because this is his home.
Yeah.
As various people came to talk to Barney about transition, it became obvious to us that he was starting to worry and get anxious about things. Due to his autism and communication difficulties, he could not really express his feelings. Barney always says he's happy and he doesn't feel sad. So it was our job to advocate on his behalf and try to find a solution to this very emotive and heart-wrenching situation. It was after a chance conversation at some training with another foster carer that I heard about shared lives. I spoke to someone at PSS about the possibilities. They were fantastic, open about what was involved, explained the process and what it would mean for both Barney and they were clear with the pay structure. We knew straight away that it was the best option for our family.
Yeah.
Barney eventually had a transition social worker assigned and a care needs assessment carried out. This was a very stressful time for us all. We did not want to promise Barney anything that we could not deliver, and we felt emotionally torn and wanted to continue looking after the young man we had nurtured for such a very long time. We tried not to show it to Barney, but it was a very difficult time.
Yeah.
We started the process of being assessed to become a shared lives carers. We did all the training and paperwork, which took about 3 months, as Bob said. It now means we work for 2 companies and have double the paperwork and double the training, but it is worth it to have achieved the best outcome for Barney. Funding was eventually agreed and everybody breathed a sigh of relief. This meant that on Barney's 18th birthday, we went from being foster carers to shared lives carers. Barney just had his 18th barbecue celebrations without any worries. Yeah. We have done lots of work to get Barney more independent, and our job now is to ensure he lives the best life he can, moving at his own pace and in his own time. We want him to now do more things for himself whilst remaining safe and supported to do so. Barney is still a vulnerable young adult, and so it is great that he has his family to watch out for him and be there when he needs help and advice. Working for shared lives is very different for fostering, and it has been a learning curve for both us and Barney. We now have to navigate new rules, new laws, and learning about safeguarding adults and the Capacity Act. It is very much a person-centred way of supporting somebody. It does have similarities to fostering, and we still have support to attend and meet other carers and build a support network. Barney can attend lots of events run by PSS, and it does still feel small enough to have a community feel. Tate, Barney's brother, who is now 17, also wants to stay post 18, and we are now in the position of tentatively keeping everything crossed that those who have the purse strings agree to the funding for him. For us, it would be better if things could be agreed and finalised much, much earlier to alleviate all these anxieties that are felt. We hope by us telling our story, people who make the changes within the local authority can implement them, and so it doesn't feel like a wait until the last minute just before the young person turns 18. We have enjoyed our fostering role and always said that we are part of a team around the child. We are lucky enough to have met the most amazing teachers of the deaf, speech and language therapists, audiologists and social workers who have cared for our family and seen us as a family rather than just numbers. We really couldn't have done our job without the support of all those professionals we have come in contact with. Now moving to shared lives, it has allowed us to carry on with this, and it is a great example of making the transition from children's social care to adult care happen and be successful for everyone. We are lucky to have 3 amazing, polite, funny, caring young men of whom we are immensely proud and all have meaningful, happy lives ahead of them.
Thank you, Adele and Barney. So Barney, over to you. So what was life like as you were approaching 18?
So I would say life was really good as I was approaching to 18, and I had lots of support when I was in fostering care. And I can also remember speaking to Adele about what would happen when I turned 18.
And what did you think would happen when you turned 18?
Well, I thought I was going to move out when I turned 18, but then I had a meeting with other care leavers about independence, and I was kind of a bit shocked about the information I heard about the independent living.
Absolutely. And did you know that there was an option called shared lives? Did you know what other options you had?
I didn't know any other options, but then Adele came to me and spoke to me about having shared lives, and I had a meeting as well with someone from PSS with Adele about transition from Boston from Adele now and fostering me to becoming shared lives and carers to me. So yeah, it's pretty good.
And so, yeah, when you found out about being able to stay with Adele and Alan under the shared lives scheme, how did that make you feel?
That made me feel really happy that I could stay with Adele and Alan when they were under the shared lives scheme, because obviously they gave me support when I was in fostering, and I still needed support before I move out.
Yeah. And Barney, can you remember what the process was like?
I was 17 at that time, and Adele did an assessment with the PSS. So they had to do like all the training, everything, and and then after they did that, they told me the news that I think a few days later that you became the shared lives carers, and I was so happy that they did that assessment, and then they became shared lives carers for me for when I turned 18. So I was really happy about that.
Brilliant. And I've got a few more questions for Barney, and I hope because this will work for Barney if I ask the question. So we're just going to go over by a few minutes, but this will be the best for Barney. So Barney,
No problem,
would you
Lesley.
recommend? Thank you. Would you recommend shared lives to other care leavers?
In my opinion, I 100% definitely would recommend shared life carers to shared life service to other care leavers, because obviously if other care leavers are approaching their 18th birthday and they're struggling to, know about living independently or don't know any information, then they could still get support from the shared life carers if they're staying with this, with the foster carers that have stayed in or again move into a new shared life carers, then they'll still get support for when they're ready to move out. So yeah, I would definitely recommend that.
Brilliant. And what support do you get from your shared lives carers, Barney?
So the support I get from a shared life carers are financial support, trying new things. So like chores around in the house. So like probably ironing, knowing the washing, cooking, more of that. Finding a job and helping with CVs and lots of more, and relationship support as well.
Brilliant. And what are the bonuses of staying in a shared lives placement?
Well, the bonuses for staying in a shared life placement would be getting support from the carers when you need it, as I said before, and going on holiday with them is the best bonus for them, the best bonus, and trying new things that I never experienced before.
And Barney, how long do you think you will stay in your shared lives placement?
I think for me, I would stay in my shared life placement until I'm ready to move out, because obviously I might definitely need a lot of support for like living independently and what's going on in the outside world. So I would say as long as I need until I get a lot enough support from me to move out.
Great. And Barney, I've got one more question for you. What are your aspirations for the future?
Well, my aspiration for the future is to get a new car and hopefully to get a new house if I'm comfortable moving out.
Brilliant. I should imagine that there's a lot of smiles on people's faces right now. So a big thanks to Adele and Barney. The bond between you is so clear, and we're so glad that it's been able to continue. So there's some great advice there from Adele and Barney. Please, if you're looking at this, if you're considering this, then the importance of doing it as early as possible. Right now here at PSS, we're working on a recent referral for somebody who turns 18 in April, and you heard about the stress that the anxiety that caused Barney and caused Adele. So anything that we and you can do to stop that has got to be good. So you can see there the ways in which to contact us. Let me quickly just hand you back to Bob before we finish. Oh, Bob, you're on mute. I think basically, oh, Bob.
Yeah, well, thanks for attending today and listening to us. Hopefully that's been helpful and informative. And I've got 100 stories I could tell, very similar to Barney's and Adele's, but unfortunately I haven't got time to do that. The slide before, so if you're wondering where your Shared Lives scheme is, Shared Lives Plus, there is the website. Shared Lives Plus is the national organisation of Shared Lives, so you'll be able to find your particular scheme there. If you live in the northwest or those areas that Lesley identified before, you can find all that information about Shared Lives there. And as I said before, hopefully this short presentation has been able to provide you with information on how brilliant Shared Lives is, the positive outcomes that it can achieve. And as I said before, there's hundreds and hundreds of stories out there about people using Shared Lives in very, very positive ways and moving to more independence. So
Brilliant.
Thank you again for your
Thank
attendance.
you.
Yeah,
Can I just say, first of all, I'm going to say a big thank you to Barney. Really appreciate your contribution, and Adele and Bob and Lesley. And we are really sorry. We are 5 minutes, I think, very much well spent over the time plan. I hope you still stay with us in this session. We're in for 30 minutes, but we're still learning. And I think it was really worth listening to Barney and covering all of those emotions and effect experiences. For those of you, once again, I would say thank you, Lesley. Thank you, all of you, for this such an insightful session. The recording will be made available. I think everybody has agreed to have this session recorded. It will be probably around April time. I cannot commit to a date, but definitely around just after Easter will be available on our Social Work England YouTube channel. We are already asking my colleague Jack, who is somewhere in the background, has already put in the chat, please do contribute to our survey, give us the feedback, tell us what we can do different and if we can improve anything, and also take time to complete a brief survey which we have added to our in our chat. We hope you truly enjoyed this session, and we are looking forward to see the rest of the week. Goodbye, everyone. Have a great Monday. Take care, everyone.